Bob's Burgers is a series known for its extremely unique art style. It's something other shows have commented on.
And I mean no disrespect when I say this, but that show looks like it was animated in a moving car.
But for regular viewers of the series, there's one episode that sticks out stylistically from literally every other single episode in this series. That's right, in this video we're going over Season 8's premiere episode, Brunchsquatch. An episode primarily built around stitched together styles and segments animated by fans. Kind of. But before we get into that, let's hit a quick recap of Brunchsquatch. In this very special episode, Bob and Linda decide to start serving brunch at the restaurant, but are foiled by brunch skunks, who are only there to take advantage of Linda's bottomless mimosas. At the same time, Felix Fischoeder gets the Belcher kids to help him in a game of hide and seek with his brother. So, as you probably noticed while watching this one, the episode features the Belchers in tons of different animation styles, which comes from over 60 different artists. But not just artists from the studio. No. We're talking about regular fans of the show who had to submit fan art to win a special contest where the best would be picked out to help animate the episode. Now, according to the actual Wikipedia entry on Season 8, Brunchsquatch was simply inspired by the fan art, which seems to ring true for how it was actually made. That is, it was still made by the studio. According to the Bob's Burgers fan wiki, artists were asked to animate their own take on the title sequence and also provide drawings of the background scenery as well as the character drawings, which is backed up by the now taken down contest website as well as interviews with the showrunners. So it's almost a little misleading to say that this episode was made by fans, but it also still feels kind of wrong to say that this was fully made by the studio, you know? With this information, we can gather that the animation team from Bento Box still animated some of it themselves, but used character designs from fans. More specifically, most of the artists are credited as having made character designs and background art that Bento Box was inspired by. But they didn't reanimate the intro apparently, as some of these artists are outright credited as having animated the opening. And it goes even a bit further than this, because Bento Box actually outsources most of their animation, meaning they didn't animate Brunchsquatch. As a result, to kick off Season 8, we got this surprisingly polarizing episode. I had the same reaction during my huge video on Bob's Burgers, but yeah, some viewers weren't fans of these styles switching between scenes, with some people online even saying they always skip this one or that they just don't like the concept. And of course, on the polar opposite end of the spectrum, you have people showering the episode's ingenuity with praise. So let's take a look behind the scenes a bit more and see how the studio Bento Box Entertainment pulled it off. On October 7th in 2015, Bob's Burgers got renewed for an 8th season. To kick things off, the showrunners' creative team decided to make a contest so they could make a more fan-driven episode, and it was also an opportunity for them to experiment with new and different animation styles. It was a good move towards not only cultivating the show's very dedicated fan base, but it also functioned as a way to celebrate the show's success so far, and to help move the bar for what's possible in animation. The creator of Bob's Burgers spoke a bit about it in a behind-the-scenes video. To quote him, "We didn't want it to be the best drawings, we didn't want slick and professional results here, we weren't going for that. We wanted it to feel like it feels when you're online and you stumble across somebody's fan art, and maybe that fan is a kid, but some of those drawings have more life and energy in them than what we could draw." In hindsight, this is reflected pretty clearly when you view the episode, in my opinion. It's actually pretty difficult to find much behind the scenes information about how this episode was animated, but we do have a video on YouTube by the showrunners describing the process, and I'll share what I found as well. First off, I found an article from a college celebrating that some of their animation students and animation faculty members got featured on the episode. Namely, there are Bridget McCleary, Lee Terwilliger, and Valerie Emborski, who all had their work chosen to be featured in Brunchsquatch. Also, I'm sorry if I butchered any of your names. According to the article, they all submitted their work to the contest in early March of 2017. As with everyone else, they had to wait until Season 8 would actually premiere before knowing if their work had been selected or not. When the Bob's Fan Art Contest, or as they call it, the Bob's Fart Contest, was announced first on Twitter in the beginning of March 2017, you could make your submission during a period of less than 2 weeks. The participants had the option of either attempting their own designs for the characters' backgrounds, or to attempt to reanimate the show's opening sequence. While Valerie submitted a 3D rendered background of the restaurant interior, Bridget and Lee made their own unique takes on the opening sequence. These 3 incredibly talented artists were chosen out of a few thousand submissions as well as 59 others, since the show ended up using 62 submissions in total. One of the animation graduates featured, Lee, said that there was no formal announcement of what artwork had been selected for the episode. The BTS video they released would show a small glimpse into how the episode was made. While it doesn't really explain how, which we'll get to later, the video featured snippets of Lee's work and confirmed their inclusion, which was big since, again, they didn't know if they made it or not. Late in the afternoon on October 1st, the Bob's Burgers Facebook page uploaded a trailer releasing the opening credits of the episode, which gave fans and viewers their first look at whose work actually made it through the final vetting process and into the episode. Both Lee and Bridget's take on the opening credit sequence had been included. Of course, when the full Brunchsquatch episode finally arrived, they would see that Valerie's 3D rendered background had been used for multiple scenes in the episode as the backdrop. In an interview, Lee went on to say this: "It was very exciting to see not only mine, but Val and Bridget's work as well. The idea that millions of people were all watching something that we'd all worked so hard to contribute on is very satisfying and a little humbling." So yeah, that's pretty interesting. That was a little look into some of the people that had been selected in the contest. I didn't really notice since you're usually more focused on the characters than the background, but I suppose we can gather from Lee's words that a few of the backdrops were reused for several scenes. For one, the episode both starts and ends with the same establishing shot that was done by Susan Altman. While on the topic of scenes in the episode, I'd like to quickly point out that the stop-motion sequence was directed by Michael Granberry, who you might know for his work on Tumbleleaf. He came in as a guest to direct that scene, which is pretty cool. And as a quick side note, I also found this coloring book featuring just 6 of the artists, which you can find in PDF form linked down below in case you want to have a look at it. Now, I couldn't find this, but apparently Fox on their official website had made a fan cut available of the episode where each artist is credited on screen on each of their scenes. Again, I couldn't personally find it, but maybe you can. Comment down below if you know where this is. Back on the topic of production, on Hot Topics YouTube channel, they have a behind the scenes video with creator Lauren Bouchard and the show's director. Near the end of the video, where Tyree describes his job as the director on the show, he calls it a 3-step process: pre-production, production, and post-production, with Tyree working in pre-production. Then the work gets sent over to Korea to be animated for production before coming back to the US for post-production. So almost the entirety of the animation seen on the show is actually outsourced to South Korea. This is something that's actually fairly common in the animation world. So in that regard, Bento Box Entertainment does very little of the actual animating. So technically they're not the animators, but it's a little more complicated than that. You see, Korean animators typically work on paper or tablets, and they draw each and every frame by hand. After drawing the key poses for the characters shot to shot, they fill in everything in between, which is the process of drawing the micro movements that make the motion look smooth, like the blurry effect of an arm moving. Lastly, each finished frame is scanned and then delivered back to Bento Box. And obviously the show is still written and conceptualized in the US by people like Lauren, the original creator. The production line extends beyond Bob's Burgers, which makes sense given that Bento Box makes more than just one show. So you might be maybe a little shocked to find that our cartoon's distinct animation styles originate in Asia. According to what I could find, Yesun Entertainment, a Korean animation studio, has been animating Bob's Burgers since season 2. They've also provided animation for The Fairly Odd Parents, Family Guy, King of the Hill, the Lizzie McGuire movie, and a bunch more. The first season of Bob's Burgers was actually just animated by a handful of people at Bento Box and made in Adobe Flash, but since being picked up by Yesun in season 2, it's been animated in a 2D animation software called Toon Boom Harmony. So what essentially happened was Bento Box took the submitted fan art, tweaked it enough to fit into Yesun's production pipeline so they could fit the criteria for what they could send over. Now, as I mentioned a few times, the show has faced criticism for this fan art episode, with most people skipping over it because they don't think it looks right, or it's lazy, or it's kind of hurts your eyes to watch sometimes. But I think that kind of is a bit disingenuous, and I know that's something I talked about too, but you know, I've grown as a person, leave me alone. It's clear as day that Bento Box cares so much about their audience and the fans, so they're not trying to take a shortcut by any means. They just wanted to give back to the fans. It gives these artists a platform, and it shows the fans that we're appreciated. But anyways, this has been 10K Bill, and thanks for watching. Comment down below what you'd like to hear me talk about next. Follow me on Twitter to stay up to date on everything I'm working on. And of course, make sure you subscribe for all your entertainment-related content.